Sorry, this is probably not going to be very long because I should have been able to get in there. But let me ask you what God called us to do. Let me tell you what God called us to do. Okay. First of all, He called us to be laborers, right? We are to plant the seeds. God is the harvester. So I was sitting here talking about all those like, oh, we need to harvest this and harvest this. No, no, no. It clear as day. It says in the scriptures that God will harvest. We don't harvest nothing. We are the laborers. We are to plant the seeds. The angels will come down and separate the wheat from the tares, and God will be the harvester. We're not to harvest anything. So people are misinterpreting that real bigly when it comes to, and they used to put the harvesting in with the reaping and the sowing. And see, that's where they get it all wrong, because they're using that to trick you and to make you think that you're going to be blessed with this prosperity gospel, with all this abundance of wealth. And that is not exactly it. And that's where they're tricking you. They're twisting the verses to meet the needs, to get you to give you their money. They're trying to trick you, saying you're going to be blessed with this, and God's going to allow you to harvest all this when it's harvesting time. There's a one harvest time, and that's when the Lord comes for the second coming. He's going to separate the wheat from the tares, and He's going to do the harvesting. We are simply the laborers. We are to plant the seeds. It is not up to us to determine if that person is right or wrong, because He will separate the wheat from the tares. And see, we get it all twisted by telling people who's right, who's wrong within the Christian walk, and you're doing this wrong, and you're doing this right, and blah, blah, blah. That's not our job. Our job is simply to plant the seeds and carry on. God will separate. The angels will come through and separate the wheat from the tares. Not only that, He says to follow me. Follow me and feed the people the gospel. See, Jesus is our shepherd. We're not the shepherds. A lot of people are walking around here too busy acting like you're the shepherd and that you're just supposed to spread the gospel, and those people you're talking to are your sheep. No, 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 no. We are the sheep. We are to follow Jesus. And we can help feed the other sheep, but we are not the shepherd. Only Jesus is our shepherd. He will provide for us. He will guide us. He is the true and good shepherd. And later on, when it comes on the second coming, guess what He's going to do? Separate the sheep from the goat. We are just simply to feed. Now, if the goats happen to come along in between the sheep or the wolves or whatever, and is eating the food that we are feeding, it's not up to determine if they're good or bad. God will separate the sheep from the goat. Not your job. Your job is to feed and spread the love. That is it. Same thing when it comes to, He's called us to be what? Fisher of men. Right? Fisher of men. We are to then bait people with His love. He says, do everything in love and do everything in kindness. Two of y'all out there being mean and thinking you're catching these people. You ain't catching nothing. You're actually shooing them away. You're making them leave. You're not building up God's kingdom. You're spreading hate. You're spreading negativity. And that's not what God is about. You're supposed to be baiting them with love. And it says you can catch flies better with honey. And y'all ain't even out there using no honey. You ain't baiting nobody with love. It's supposed to be fisher of men. And who's going to separate it? Who's going to determine? It says in the scriptures that He will separate the good fish from the bad fish. God's job. Too many people out there thinking you're high and mighty and you're doing God's job. You're not doing what He called you to do. You just got there because you got, He gave you revelation. He gave you a little bit of knowledge in this. Honey, when you started, you didn't have as much knowledge. You gained that because you learned as you go. And each person is going to learn as they go. It says, Jesus says, He tells everybody to come to Him as they are. That means with their sin, with their wrongings, with their wrong thinking. He would change those people Himself. He would clean them up Himself. It's not for you to tell them that they need to get right and do all this. God will do that. You are simply to catch the fish. You are simply to plant the seeds. You are simply to feed the sheep. That is it. That is it. Either you feed them the milk or you feed them the meat. But God, when He gradually grows you up, and then when you got a little bit more knowledge, then you have the baby sheep. You just feed the baby sheep the milk. And if He promoted you here, then you start feeding the bigger sheep the meat. That is simply it. Y'all too busy out there playing God and you don't realize it. And that's why you're pointing fingers and you're saying this is this and this and this. You're doing God's job. Stop doing God's job and do what he called you to do. And that is it. He called you to be fishermen. He told you to spread the gospel. Feed his sheep. He simply told Peter to feed his sheep. He didn't say out there to choose who can eat this and do that. He just said feed them. Feed them. He would separate the sheep from the goat. He would separate the good fish from the bad fish. He would separate the wheat from the tares. You are just to plant the seed, feed the sheep, and you are to go fishing. That's it. Quit doing God's job. Do what you was called to do. Y'all taking it way too far and get too far ahead of yourself, and you're idolizing yourself. You're placing you above God. That's what happened to Satan. That's why he fell down. That's why after you start wondering if you was all this close to God and you was doing all this and all of a sudden you're starting to go down, is because you're putting yourself higher and you're doing God's job. You wonder why your burden is too heavy. Well, quit. You're supposed to give the burden to God. And when you're doing God's job, instead of doing what you was called to do, no wonder the weight is too heavy. The burden is, and you can't wonder why this and that. Well, God didn't ask you to do that. You're putting those things upon yourself. You're making it harder for yourself. Just simply do what you was called to do. It's that simple. Nobody told you to put the weight of the world on your shoulders. You did that yourself. God bless.